Hi, welcome back. The sales of annuities have recently reached a 10-year high. So in this video, we'll look at the reasons behind this increase to help you decide whether or not an annuity might be right for you. And don't forget that you can buy an annuity even if you have already retired. It's not necessarily something that you have to do at the start of your retirement. Why have annuity sales increased? According to a recent article in the Financial Times, there are two broad reasons as to why the sales of annuities have increased recently. The first one is because of economic uncertainty, and the second one is because annuity rates are relatively high at the moment. When pension freedoms were first introduced in 2014, annuities immediately became extremely unpopular. People who had the choice, who had a defined contribution pension pot, opted instead to move their money into a drawdown for their income during retirement, such that their money remained invested in the stock market instead of buying an annuity. The insurance industry sold £7 billion worth of annuities in 2024, which was up 34% from the previous year. And this is the highest figure since pension freedoms were introduced. That 7 billion figure of total sales represents 89,600 annuity contracts. But despite this 10-year high, this figure is still only a quarter of that sold the year before pension freedoms were introduced. What are annuities? Before we go any further, let's talk very briefly about what an annuity actually is. An annuity, in relation to UK pensions, is a financial product provided by an insurance company that gives you a guaranteed income for a fixed term or for the rest of your life in exchange for a lump sum of money that you give them, and that lump sum usually comes out of your pension. It's important to point out that you do not have to use all of your pension pot. You can use part of it with which to buy an annuity and keep the rest invested. And this annuity will provide you with a guaranteed income for the rest of your life, irrespective of what the stock market does. Features of annuities in the UK. You can see listed on the screen right now the main features of annuities. I've listed some of the different types, but bear in mind this is not an exhaustive list. It's to give you a flavour of the various types of annuities that are available. It's important to bear in mind that the rates depend on your age and state of health. Generally speaking, the older you are and the poorer your health, the better the annuity rate that you'll get. Whilst there are plus sides of annuities in that they give you the peace of mind of the guaranteed income, you won't have any investment risk once you've purchased an annuity, and they can be tailored to meet your individual needs to an extent. For example, you can have an annuity that pays to your spouse upon your death. The downside is that once you've bought an annuity, you generally can't change or amend it. Despite the relatively high rates at the moment, they're still low as compared with long-term stock market returns. If your investments perform well in a drawdown, you could well get a lot more money than you're able to get through an annuity. And if you don't get an inflation-linked annuity, then the purchasing power of your annual income can erode over time. Is an annuity right for you? So despite annuity sales being at a 10-year high, the majority of people are still choosing not to buy one for their retirement income. As this figure from the Financial Times shows, annuity purchases still make up a small part of the landscape for people throughout the range of pension fund sizes. Annuities were the most popular for people who have a pension fund of between £50,000 and £250,000. I found it interesting that less than 10% of people with funds of over £250,000 are choosing to buy an annuity. Let me know what your thoughts are on wealthier pensions choosing not to buy them. It'd be interesting to see how the purchase of annuities changes over time, now that defined contribution pension pots will become part of your estate for inheritance tax purposes. How much could you get? As I've touched upon before, how much income you will get per year for your annuity will depend on a range of factors, the main ones being your age and health. If you are young, fit and healthy, then the lower the rate you'll get as compared with somebody who is older and unfortunately not as fit and well. According to data from Hargreaves Lansdown, somebody who converted £100,000 into an annuity right now and is age 65 would get £6,309 per year. But somebody age 75 who took out that same annuity would instead get £9,368 per year. So that 75-year-old, to match that annuity rate by leaving their money invested in the stock market, would need to be getting an impressive 9.5% return per year after fees. You don't have to decide as soon as you retire. You don't have to decide whether or not to buy an annuity when you start your retirement. Many pension platform providers may make it appear as though it's an either-or decision and that you have to make it when you are thinking about your retirement in the run-up to it. But that's not the case. You can buy an annuity later on. You run the risk that annuity rates won't be as favourable in the future. And of course, in the meantime, you have to manage your money in the form of investments instead. Annuity rates in the UK are closely linked to bond yields and also high quality corporate bonds. This is because annuity providers that are insurance companies use the return from these bonds in order to pay those who are receiving annuities from them. So being informed about the bond market can help inform you as to whether or not a particular point in time is a good time to be buying an annuity or whether it's better to wait. You don't want to be buying an annuity when bond yields are low. And remember, it's not an all or nothing decision. This might be obvious to some of you, but you don't have to use the entirety of your pension pot in order to buy an annuity. You could use a portion of it to buy some guaranteed income and leave the rest invested. You may not be aware that fixed term annuities are available. You don't have to buy an annuity that lasts for the rest of your life, and I'll go into why that might be a good idea for you in a later video. I can fully appreciate why annuities, despite being at a 10-year high, are still relatively unpopular, not least because many of my clients who are retiring in the near future have a mix of defined benefit and defined contribution. Their defined benefit pension in many cases was frozen at about 15 years ago, and ever since they've been paying into a defined contribution pension. I have many clients in that situation, and even though their defined benefit pension is not as large and as generous as the generation before them might have been, and I'm talking mainly about the private sector here, of course, that still means that the defined benefit portion acts like an annuity. They have that guaranteed amount from their DB, even if it is relatively small, and that gives them comfort to leave the rest invested. Future generations won't be in that situation because people entering the workforce today won't have the mix of DB and DC. This will start to phase out over time. You may not have a defined benefit component of your overall portfolio, and so as a result, you may be considering whether or not to buy a portion of guaranteed income. Despite the relatively high rates for annuities at the moment, you may be confident that you can get better return from leaving your money invested in the stock market. And that's absolutely fine, because for each and every one of us, we all have to make that choice of what is the right mix for us. And it's the right mix of risk that you want to take versus guaranteed income, as compared with the relative admin that you want to be doing into your later years and managing all this. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you are not a subscriber, it would help me out so much if you take a second to click the subscribe button. It's completely free. Until next time, hwyl fawr am y tro.